Hi, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Erica. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. I would love to have you subscribe, like, comment, and if you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. So in today's video, I'm going to be using a new eyeshadow palette in my collection. About 3 or 4 months ago, I saw Nikki Raven use this palette on her channel and I went berserk. And about 2 or 3 weeks ago, it went on sale. It was about 50% off. And you know me, big cheapskate, as soon as I see a good makeup bargain, I go for it. Now this is the B palette from Lena Lashes. Now Lena Lashes is a US indie brand located in Louisiana. And when I saw Nikki use this palette on her channel, I became pretty obsessed with it. And I found the brand owner on Instagram, chatted with her a little bit about the palette, and finally when it went on sale, I got it. And I'm so excited to finally be using this. Now, not only will you find this palette on Lena Lash's website, but you're also going to find out that she creates such beautiful false lashes. I mean, they're amazing. And I personally do not wear false lashes, but I hope someday I put my big girl pants on and decide to finally use false lashes. Now, I've done it before, a long time ago. It's kind of a mess, so I kind of just gave up on it. But I think this palette is gorgeous. I love the packaging. It feels kind of like heavy and like luxurious. Beautiful color story, very unique. I just love it. Beautiful mattes, beautiful shimmers. I love the way it's laid out like a honeycomb, and I'm just so excited to give these shadows a try. I cannot wait to create a look with this palette. It's been a long time coming. So if you are interested to see me create a look using the B palette from Lena Lashes, then please sit back, relax, and let's get started. All right, let's get started with this look using the B palette from Lena Lashes. Now I do have my brows done, and I do have this eyelid primed in the Louise Eyeshadow Base in Rumour 01. Now it's so funny, I was looking at the names of the eyeshadows here before I was getting ready to film here, and they're all in French. And I did take French in high school, but I mean, that was eons ago. And I'm just not going to butcher the names of these shades. I'm sure that the brand owner would really appreciate me not doing that. So I'm going to start off with this light yellow matte right there. And I am going to put that towards the front part of my transition area. And there's been something that I have been dying to chat with you guys about. I have Netflix. I'm sure most of you guys probably have Netflix too. And I just finished, maybe last week, watching a true crime series called The Worst Roommate Ever. And I want to know if you guys have seen this or not. And I don't want to give too much of it away because, you know, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to, like, you know, be a buzzkill. Get it? Buzzkill, B palette. And I was just blown away by this show. And there's just a couple things I wanted to chat with you guys about. And then I have a couple little quick roommate stories, of course, I'm going to share with you guys. But what's odd to me, and I know this is going to make me sound kind of like an old fuddy-duddy and maybe a little old-fashioned, a little old school, but I don't understand finding a roommate on Craigslist. To me, that just sounds very sketchy, dangerous. I don't know. It's just not my thing. And I'm sure there have been a lot of people that have found roommates on Craigslist and it worked out just fine. But after watching this show, because there's like, I think 6 or 7 episodes, and each episode is based on a different person's story, except for the last 2. The last 2, it's like part 1 and part 2 of the same story. And before we get any further, I love this yellow matte. It's gorgeous, it's vibrant, it's pigmented, it's blending nicely. It's just incredible. But there's a couple people that find roommates on Craigslist and it just goes from bad to worse to horrible really quickly. Now I think I'm gonna go into this shade here. I don't know what it's called, not even gonna try, and put that towards the latter half of the transition area. And I know that, like, if my daughter told me that she'd found a male roommate on Craigslist and was going to move in with him, I would probably freak out. And I know that my mom would have freaked out if I had done that too. And I know that might sound kind of sexist. I don't mean for it to. I mean, I think women should be able to live with whoever the heck they want, wherever the heck they want, and be perfectly safe. I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, you shouldn't be able to do that. It's just sometimes you just can't do that because, you know, you don't know what you're getting yourself into here. Not only that, but then the tenants' rights that are in place in this country. Now, I don't know if they're all the same state by state, but I know the tenants' rights in Oregon are pretty intense. And I understand why that happened. You know, I can remember when I was younger living in a duplex, we were running a duplex, and the landlord that we had was just a jerk. And he called us one day and said, you have 4 days to get all your stuff out because I'm moving back into the house. Like, he owned the house and was moving back in. And we were like, what? No, you know, we didn't have anywhere to go. And so I understand, like, that's kind of where those tenants' rights came from, was to protect you, you know, so that people can't just kick you out of a house without, you know, any warning or whatever. But the thing is that now it's gone so far the other direction. People do all these crazy things in your house and you can't do anything to get them out unless you go to get a lawyer and go through court. And even if you call the police, sometimes they don't do anything. I mean, it's a little weird. Okay, now I think what I'm going to do is go into, oh geez, I don't know. I think I'm going to go into this shade here, this kind of deeper burgundy brown color. Let me grab a brush for that. And I'm going to put that towards the outer V and into the transition area a little bit too. So after watching this, it just made me kind of start thinking about my own situation with roommates. And I am loving these mattes, by the way. They are just gorgeous. I mean, so vibrant, blend out so beautifully. I think they look amazing. I had roommates in college that were great. I mean, you know, we had our moments at times when we didn't always get along, but for the most part, everybody got along pretty well. And everybody was very respectful. And, you know, when we weren't, somebody wasn't, you know, we'd sit them down and say, hey, you're being kind of an idiot, knock it off. And they would. And after I graduated from college, I moved in with 3 of my really good friends. 2 of them I'd actually known since I was like 14 years old. So it'd been like, I don't know, what, 8 years by this point. So I thought I knew them very well. And we moved into this rental that was downtown in the city that I live in near the college campus. And so those houses down there, they're old. I mean, you know, they've been around since probably like the 1920s. And I was living in the basement room. And it wasn't really meant necessarily to be lived in, but I mean, it was like half finished, so it was okay. I mean, it looked a little bit kind of dungeony for a little while. Until I kind of got down there and cleaned it up. My mom was not happy that I was doing that. My mom was remarried, and she was moving to Southern Oregon to live with my stepdad. And I just didn't want to move down there. You know, I wanted to be in my hometown. I'd finished going to college in a town that was about an hour away. And I just really excited to move back here and, like, you know, have my adult life here. I have my college degree. Let's see what happens. Moved in with these 3 friends of mine, moved into the basement room. Like I said, got it all cleaned up, got some like carpet remnant, put that down. I am going to go back into this brush with no additional product and just kind of blend that a little bit better. And I was really excited. You know, I just thought this is going to be awesome. So I was working 2 jobs at this point. I was what, 22, I guess, 21, no, 22. And I was working as a preschool teacher in the mornings. And then I was also working as like a after school program director type thing at the same school in the afternoons till about 5:30 at night. And then I would go from there to Blockbuster Video, which I loved working at Blockbuster. And if Blockbuster was still around, I would still be working at Blockbuster. I don't care how much money I wasn't making. I would be working there. It was so much fun. And there still is a Blockbuster here in Bend, Oregon, which is about 3 hours away from where I live. And my husband and I really want to go check that out because I have so many fond memories of working at Blockbuster. And so, you know, I wasn't home a whole lot because I was, you know, always at work, it seemed like. And I just remember this one night, I got home from closing at Blockbuster, and it was probably 12:30 because Blockbuster would close at around midnight. And I walk into the kitchen, and it's a mess. I mean, I was starving. I was exhausted. I was starving. All I wanted to do was make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So I go into the kitchen, and it's a freaking disaster. I mean, it looked like a bomb had gone off in there. Now I think what I'm going to do is go into this shimmer right here. That's kind of maroon burgundy shimmer. Grab a little brush for that. And I think what I am going to do is spray this. And I was just like, okay, what the heck happened in here? You know, somebody had made like, well, my roommate and her boyfriend had made like this 8-course meal. And I was like, geez, Louise, you guys. Wow. That is so pretty. Beautiful. And I just quickly made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I cleaned up my mess. I just had used like a knife and like a cutting board and wolfed my sandwich down. Like I said, cleaned everything up and went to bed. And the next night when I got home from work, I didn't work at Blockbuster that night. I just worked at the after school program. So I got home at about, you know, dinner time. And I go down into the basement. There's like a French door and there's a note taped to it with my name on it. And when I first walked in the house, my roommate and her boyfriend and my other roommate were sitting on the couch. My other roommate was upstairs. I know, other roommate, there's too many roommates. And when I said hi to the people that were in the living room, they just kind of went, hey, and just didn't really say much. And I thought, okay, like, am I in trouble? What happened? So I pull this note off of the French door. Now I'm going to flip the brush over. And I think what I'm going to do is go into this shimmer right here. It's kind of this like orangey gold shimmer. And the note basically says that if I'm going to be in the kitchen making a meal and there are dirty dishes in the kitchen, that I need to do the dishes. Even though they weren't my dishes. And how disrespectful I was that I left all of these dirty dishes in the sink and on the counters and everything and just went about making my own meal and then went to bed like a rude jerk. I didn't clean up after them. And I'm like, I just started laughing when I read the note. And my roommate, who had the boyfriend, who had, you know, done the majority of the cooking, says, that is not a joke, by the way. Now I'm going to go into this beautiful bright gold shimmer, put that down towards the front of the lid there. So I go out in the living room and I said, listen, I don't know what to say other than I'm not doing that. I'm not going to clean up after anybody else's mess anywhere in this house. They were absolute pigs, two of my roommates, the one with the boyfriend and then the other one that was sitting out in the living room with her. I mean, their crap was all over the house. They would just make an absolute disaster area everywhere they went. But I basically just said, you know, I'm not the maid. Like, this is insane. I would never, ever expect anybody to clean up my mess, ever. And my other roommate who was upstairs, she overhears this and she comes flying down the stairs and she is just livid. And this person was not somebody that was going to take any shit from anyone, which I loved her. She's amazing. And she just said, yeah, no one's going to be cleaning up anybody's mess in this house. Like, if you don't have time to clean up your mess, then don't cook. But we're not each other's maids. We're not going to do that. Going up my finger now. We're not going to do that for each other. Like, that's going to cause a lot of problems and could very well lead to people being taken advantage of. And no way. Like, you want someone to clean up your stuff, either you hire your own maid or do it yourself. And so they were both just kind of like, whatever. And I just thought, yeah, whatever. So that was kind of like my first example of, you know, you don't really know somebody until you live with them. That's something that I've always tried to really impress upon my kids. You know, they both have had roommates. My son has roommates now. And it's just kind of interesting because you don't really know somebody that well until you live with them. You know, you can think you're best friends in the world with somebody, but then you live with them and you're like, who in the hell is this person? You know, it's very strange and, you know, kind of sad, actually. Now I'm going to do the lower lash line. I'm going to start off with the NYX Professional Makeup Epic Wear Liner Stick in the shade Gold Plated. And put that in my waterline, of course. Now, about a month after that happened, I was working at Blockbuster one night and it was totally pouring down rain. It was probably like the first real rain that we'd had in the fall. It was probably like, I don't know, maybe the middle of October. And it was like torrential rainfall. And I'm not kidding. It was just awful. And I get a call at about 10 o'clock from one of my roommates, 10 o'clock at night. And she said, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's flooding down here. And they've closed like 4 or 5 streets off around our house. And I don't know how you're going to get home. And I think what I'll do is start off with this shade here, this kind of lighter orange shade here. Put that across my, let's go ahead and do the last half of the lower lash line with this. And then I'll do the light yellow shade towards the front part of the lower lash line. Why not? She said, I don't really know what to tell you to do. But there is some water in the basement. She's like, there's not a lot, but there's a little bit. And I'm like, oh, wonderful. Now, like I said, all the houses that were down there were really old. And the people that owned the property, the house that we lived in Arizona. And we did have like a handyman that would come and like help us if we had issues with the house. But, you know, they weren't real good about like keeping up on the maintenance of the house. And, you know, we'd only been there for like 2.5 months by this point. And there was enough things that had gone wrong in that house that we should have all just been like, okay, let's move out, but we didn't. So I said, well, you know, I have a friend that lives close by here that I can probably stay the night with because I'd done that a few other times. Just didn't want to drive all the way home because I was exhausted. So I called my friend. She said, sure, that's fine. Come spend the night. And the next morning I got up and I went back to my house to see, kind of survey the damage. And I walk in the house and I go to the French doors to go down into the basement. And I open up the door and I look down the stairway and there's like 1.5 feet of standing water throughout the entire basement room, my bedroom. And I'm like, you know, all my stuff's down there. And I'm like, my TV, my stereo, my bed, all my clothes, everything. And I'm like, oh no. Not only was it totally full of water, it reeked to high heaven because we're not just talking like rainwater here. We're talking mud, dirt, silt, leaves. I mean, I don't know what was going on with the foundation of that house, but it was not stable. And so I had just filthy, nasty, disgusting, stagnant water just hanging out down there. And I'm like, wonderful. So one of my roommates was home, the nice roommate that had been so helpful to me throughout my little issue with the dishes. She was like, okay, well, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to help you. And we're going to get as much stuff out of this place and get it upstairs as we can. Now I'm going to go into this shade here. This is that darker shade. Just put that towards the outer part of the lower lash line. just kind of deepen that up. So we put most of my stuff in like the dining room. We weren't using the dining room. I mean, there was just a bunch of crap in there anyway. And then I put a bunch of my stuff in her bedroom as well. And my other two roommates come home. They weren't there at this time. And they instantly are like, what are you doing with all this stuff? Why are you bringing it up here? And I'm like, my room is flooded. I mean, they knew it had flooded. They're like, so we can't have your stuff up here. And I'm like, you guys, I can't leave my stuff down there. It's going to get ruined. I mean, it's like, you know, should be condemned. I mean, it was a cesspool. It was disgusting. So they kind of like begrudgingly let me leave my stuff up there. And I realized within about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days, like this was really bad. Like as the water started to kind of like drain out of the drain holes in the floor in the basement, that should have been my first clue. It was just awful. I mean, it really was. It was horrible. And so I started looking into getting another apartment somewhere, and I couldn't afford that. I couldn't really find anybody that needed a roommate. So I contacted my parents. They were living in Southern Oregon. You know, my mom had just gotten remarried. And I said, Mom, I'm in kind of a world of hurt here and I need somewhere to go. And she said, well, come down here. You know, you can live with us. That'd be great. I mean, my mom would have let me live with her for the rest of my life. So now I'm going to go back into this orange shade and just kind of blend that out just a little bit because it looks a little harsh. So I finally decided that that's what I was going to have to do. You know, I was just going to have to live down there. I mean, I didn't want to move down there, but I couldn't afford to live on my own. Even though I was working 2 jobs, I was making like minimum wage, which I think was what, like $7, $8 an hour. I mean, nothing. So I sat my roommates down and I explained to them that I was going to have to move out. And the one roommate who had some common sense was like, oh yeah, I totally understand that. I'm really going to miss you, but I get it. You know, that makes sense. And the other two were like, well, we can't afford rent without you. And everybody's basements are flooding. Like, I don't understand why you're making such a big deal about this. You know, everyone that lives around us, their basements are flooding. I'm like, yeah, but how many of them like sleep down in their basement? And my one roommate's like, well, I just think you're giving up too easy. And I said, well, I have a great idea. Why don't we switch rooms? I'll take your room. You can take my room. If you think I'm being such a weirdo about it, let's just switch rooms. Why don't we? And she's like, well, I mean, no, I have asthma and I can't be in a room like that. I'm thinking, okay, like, give me a break. They were not helpful. They were angry at me the entire time I was moving my stuff out. It was horrible. Now I'm going to go into this cool shade right here. It's like a silver and gold, or is that silver? It's kind of like, I don't know, white shimmer with gold mixed into it. I'm going to put that in my inner corner. Anyway, I mean, you know, we ended up being friends after all was said and done, but it just kind of made me realize, ooh, that is pretty. It's kind of like the gold on the lid, but it's lighter and it's really pretty. Yeah. Ooh, I love it. It just made me realize that like, I didn't ever want to have a roommate again. Like, unless I was like romantically involved with the person or they were my kids or my family members, I did not want to have another roommate or live with a friend again, because, you know, you just find out sometimes, not always, but sometimes you find out that they're not the same as you thought they were, that they don't have the same personality traits that, you know, attracted you to them as a friend to begin with. Sometimes you just find out more than you bargained for when you start living together. Not that I'm perfect. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I mean, I would never treat somebody like that. And, you know, we kind of were distant from each other for, you know, a few months after I moved out and moved down to Southern Oregon. And then, you know, we got over it. And compared to what I saw on that show, what I dealt with was nothing, I'm telling you. I really hope that you guys will go watch that. I know that not everybody's into true crime. I know that sounds so strange. I always say that, like, I'm into true crime. Like, okay, weirdo. But I don't know. I'm just always really interested in how people's minds work and like why they do some of the things they do. So I pretty much think this eye look is finished. I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to do the other eye, put the finishing touches on, maybe clean things up just a little bit, and I'll be right back to show you how everything came together. I am back. This is the finished look, and I love how this look turned out. And before I talk to you guys about the eyeshadow palette again, I did want to go over a few things quickly that I used in my finished look today. On my lips, I used the Gosh Cosmetics Liquid Matte Lips Liquid Lipstick in the shade 009, the red. This was sent to me from Pia, Makeup by PAW, all the way from Denmark. This is such a beautiful red vampy liquid lipstick, and it feels really nice on the lips. You know, some liquid lipsticks can feel kind of drying. This really doesn't do that. This almost feels more like a traditional lipstick, but yet it has the staying power and the non-transferness of a liquid lipstick. I love this. For my mascara, I use the Wet n Wild Megalength mascara in the shade black. This is so cheap, works so well. I think I got this for what, $2.99, $3.99, something like that at my grocery store. And I just think this is such a beautiful mascara. It just makes your lashes look amazing, and I love it. And then for my eyeliner on my upper lid, I use the Essence eyeliner pen in the shade Black. I got this along with the other Essence products that I used when I revealed that I have a grandson now. I'm loving it. Very similar to the Ciate London Fierce Flicks, kind of a dupe for that. And so I'm really happy that I have something else, kind of give the Ciate London eyeliner a break. This is beautiful. It's amazing. Now let's talk about the palette from Lena Lashes. This is the B palette that I used for my look today. Absolutely gorgeous. This palette is a little bit tricky for me to open because I always feel like you need to pull that thing up, but you don't have to do that. The shades that I use in this palette are just beautiful, and they performed so well. I use this shade here towards the front part of the transition area, this shade here towards the outer part of the transition area. I use this to deepen up the outer V, and I used all three of those on the lower lash line. And then on the lid, I used a combination of these three shimmers right here, and I used that as my inner corner shade. The shimmers are so beautiful. They're very like thick, kind of flaky, but not in a bad way. I mean, there's a little bit of like movement. I mean, they're powder, so of course they're gonna move around a little bit, but they still got onto the brush very easily. I did use my finger a little bit. That wasn't because I needed to add more pigment. That's just kind of what I do. I like to kind of mush my shimmers together with my finger. I don't even know that I needed to spray these shimmers. You know, I think they would have adhered just fine to my lid without a bunch of fallout. I don't know that they even needed that for like the foiled effect. I just think these are stunning shimmers. And then the mattes performed beautifully. They were pigmented. They blended out well. They played nicely together. I just really enjoyed using this, and I cannot wait to try all the other shades in this palette that I did not use today. Lena Lashes, folks, I'm telling you, this is an amazing palette. I will have Lena Lashes' website linked in my description box. I highly recommend that you go check out her site. Look at this palette. Look at all of the beautiful, wonderful false lash sets she has. False lashes sets she has. They are so beautiful. I promise one of these days, I really do, that I am going to try a set of false lashes in a video. So I hope you really enjoyed watching the look come together. I hope you enjoyed hearing about my crazy roommate stories. And I would like to know about your crazy roommate stories. I'm sure most of us have at least one or two of those kind of stories. I also want to know if you have watched the show on Netflix, Worst Roommate Ever, and what you think of it. We have to analyze this to the nth degree, please. I need somebody to talk to about this. My husband's like, yeah, okay, yeah, it was crazy and weird and but move on. But no, I gotta discuss it. So please, in the comment section, oblige me. Let's talk about it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy day or evening to sit down and watch my video. It always means the world to me. If you have subscribed or you would like to subscribe, do not forget to hit the notification bell. That way you're aware of all of my future uploads. I cannot wait to see you guys in my next video, but in the meantime, please take care of yourself, be well, safe, happy, and I hope to see you very soon. Thanks again, you guys. Take care. Bye.
Drop it.